Okay, with Matthew W. Kelcourse, Gemini World is the screenplay played at the Environmental Film Festival. It's obviously an environmental film, but it's obviously a story as well. So, do you want to give people the pitch about what this screenplay is all about?
Well, sure. Like I guess in a nutshell, it's our main protagonist is Monica, and she kind of lives alone in the desert, helping to maintain carbon scrubber units because her father owned an oil company that's now depleting the atmosphere, and the world's gonna go apocalyptic in about 2 years. And because of her history as a pilot for NASA, she's chosen to captain the ship to take away 2,500 or so people in cryostasis and a small crew to a new planet they found 4,000 light years away, and the adventures they encounter on the way, which I shouldn't say really adventures. I set up a couple of parts where it looks like it's going to be one of those tropes, an alien, this, that, whatever, and just turn it back on it, and we find out that the worst thing for mankind in space is mankind, is what it is.
The
Um,
worst for
I'm
mankind
not
in
sure
space
exactly.
is mankind.
Yeah, and instead of anything they encountered in space, their worst enemy turned about to be themselves, but in the form of um, the opposite world. We're in the Western Coalition. There's
Yeah.
the Eastern Coalition led by the Russians. Which, funny enough, I was going to write this screenplay, and then the Russians were turning out to be so nice. I can't write this, and then they invaded Ukraine and said, "Okay, I can write it now."
Yeah.
And so went ahead and did that. And they weren't going to make it, so they arranged to be halfway there before the Americans get there and hijack the ship. And so they have to overcome that um, and make it safely through it. The ship gets damaged on their way, so they end up having to land a very big ship that was never meant to be landed on a strange land. But on the way, there's a lot of character development just based on feedback I've been getting that I somehow took what should be an old story and made it new with mostly the characters and everything. It follows a 5 act structure instead of a 3 act structure, which a lot of people don't see much of, including myself. But yeah, they sleep. Sorry, I'm mumbling. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
Yeah,
But
totally. You're great. Because
so they leave from what's called L2 or Lagrange 2 location, which is on the far side of our moon. It's where they have the Webb telescope now because of the stable orbit for a space station. They launch from there. They do a brief incident over at Mars, which doesn't really have anything to do with the script except for the fact that it shows what's going to happen in
yeah.
the future a little bit. Um, and they go and they cry sleep for 2,000 years. They wake up, having lunch and everything. They get a distress signal from the Russian ship, so they stop to help them. They have a nice day together, nice meal. Then, sorry, we're close to the base. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
no.
basically, it's
Um,
not sorry to interrupt, but basically, it's kind of a sci-fi meets thriller meets action with an environmental twist to it, I guess, right?
yeah, the point of it was, climate change is real. There's too many deniers, so I want to create an entertaining, fun way to learn that we're screwing up the planet and it's almost too late. Kind of teaching something while entertaining is
Yeah.
is the basic goal for it.
I always like to say that the planet's going to be fine. It's gone through many iterations. Humans are in trouble. Humans are going to
Yep,
get destroyed, but the planet will be fine.
exactly. And that's part of the thing about the whole journey is they left Earth because of what humans did to it, and then encounter more humans that
Yeah,
want to behave like they did on the previous Earth.
that's what
So
I'm getting out of the because basically we don't change, right?
no,
We're a species
it's
that had disposable
mhm,
thumbs and we evolved
yeah.
basically, but we don't, we're still kind of selfish in
Mhm.
our nature and narcissistic, and we just kind of we go in our little cults and we stay in our cults and we basically like to fight against each other.
Exactly, and that's what the Russians did, and in a very humanistic way. But it gets explained is they planned to hijack them at Midway. It's called not Midway in the Pacific, but the irony is still there. Um, and kidnap them and take them all as indentured servants, as slaves, or when they reach a new planet, and they will become part of New Russia, which is what they're going to call it.
New Russia.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So if they don't, or they get taken hostage, except for the captain and two others who were kidnapped and stashed in a room at the very beginning. But so the captain's the only one. If she can't free her people,
Yeah.
they're going to end up being slaves on Gemini World, on there what they're going to call New Russia. So I mean, it's do or die basically. So the stakes are get that and get it done. And there's a lot of fun ways they do it, and they get to it, and and then they finally they in the end they do make it. But there's a lot of stories about what's happening. I like one of the points that the Russian captain makes, because he's really pissed off at our captain because she was involved with the death of his son years ago in World War III, and he holds her to blame for that. So this whole thing is vengeance for him as well. And so we throw in a line that kind of pokes a little bit of fun at DeSantis down in Florida, by him saying that they'll learn like new skills that will help them for generations to come. Things like that. I throw in some historically relevant things from the issues of the time and play them in there, that in a way that kind of keeps remaking the point all the way through.
Yeah.
To the end. And they end up making it. They lose, a couple people along the way. It's heartfelt. And our hero, Monica, she's fully capable. She kicks ass. She does everything. They don't carry weapons the Americans don't carry weapons on their ship because it's a new world. So they bring stun guns. So their weapons are stun guns. The Russians are coming with ballistic bullets and AK-47s. So it's a battle of wits and fighting and skill as well. But in the end, she goes from, instead of being angry at the world and her father for doing what they did to the world, she ends up embracing life and humanity and going on. About midway through, she's not aware that the Russians, intending to use him as a bribery tool, gave a seat to her father. So her father ends up actually on the ship after the hijacking, as bait to get her to come out and surrender in case they needed it. And he sacrifices himself for the sake of the ship as well. After his company doing what it did to the world, it seemed appropriate that he willingly he sacrificed himself willingly.
So tell me about your screen. When did you start writing screenplays yourself?
Probably about a month after January 6th. It was stressing me out. My wife said, "Why don't you start writing again?" I wrote a screenplay called Thief of Hearts and optioned it 25 years ago.
Okay.
And then I moved to Australia and had and never got back to it again. So if you count the 6 months I wrote 25 years ago plus now, about 3.5, 4 years.
Well, where were you doing in between the 25 years?
I'm a veterinary surgeon.
Okay.
So, which is pretty easy for a guy that, with my skills, I do orthopedic and spinal surgery. And any place that wanted me over in Australia, I could go, and I always wanted to go. So I did there. I ran my own surgery service for a while. And then in 2012, decided to come back here. It's expensive to live in Australia.
Yeah.
And it's no judgment on most of the people are nice, but there's a lot of racism. Now I'm finding out how much there is here as well.
I was going to say, is more racism than in Australia. I guess it depends where you are, right? But
we're about even. They don't hide it over there, though. They talk bad about the indigenous people right out in the open, and it hurts my heart every time. So I was there for about 6.5 years, and then said, okay, that's enough.
So when an animal needs to get surgery, you're the guy, I guess.
Yeah, I do a lot of orthopedics. I'm actually the only veterinarian documented in the world to have performed spinal surgery on a snake for Cairns Tropical Zoo. It's a poisonous snake called the coastal taipan. Second most deadliest snake in Australia, but they had it for the breeding program for the anti-venom project because it's deadly. If you get bit, you're going to die unless you have anti-venom within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So we did that, documented it and everything, and saved the snake's life. It had about 18 eggs, and then it passed on its own after that. But we got 18 more eggs into the
I was
anti-venom
gonna
project.
say. So how many animals have you done surgery on to date? Like how many times? Like
I don't. The only thing I can say, because cruciate surgery, knee surgery in dogs is probably the most common one. I've done over 4,000.
oh
So,
wow.
so,
How much would
yeah,
that how
it's
much would that cost if I say I have a dog and he's
that depends. I've always kept my costs affordable because I don't want people amputating legs because they can't afford $5,000
yeah,
for leg surgery. So it's 1,500.
okay.
Yeah, and I do it now. I'm semi-retired
Yeah.
now. I kind of, but I do knee surgeries once a week in Richmond, which is an hour and a half away. And it's called Helping Hands, and they help people accomplish the surgeries and the dentistry that needs to be done at a lower cost.
That's amazing.
So, so I do that for them. So, yeah, and anyone else, yeah, there's plenty of places that can do it, but yeah.
So then,
So
but
it's
writing is something that you've always kind of like you said 25 years ago, but it's something that you kind
yeah.
of go back to.
I got into Stephen King, reading Stephen King when I was in like junior high school, and I just started writing short stories, not very good ones. And then I think when Star Wars came out, I asked my dad, "Can I do a mural on the bedroom wall?" And he said, "Go right ahead." He encouraged anything creative. So I did a big. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to like this movie thing." So I thought about it for a long time, and then I got out of. When you get away from it for so long, you just
Yeah.
forget about it,
Yeah.
and that's what happened. She encouraged me. So when my wife suggested that, I said, "Well, I always told myself I was going to do it again. I'm going to buy first draft instead of try to make my own platelet." And she said, "That's fine." So I bought that and just started going.
You mean final
And
draft?
yeah, final draft. I got final draft 12 then. Now I
Okay.
have 13.
No, you said
But
yeah. Okay, so then so January 6th, 2021, so 3.5 years ago. It seems like it was yesterday, but 3.5
it
years
does.
ago, then that kind of motivated you. I do have to, we don't have to get overly political, but basically you did point out in your blog interview that the things that you're passionate about are two
Hmm.
things. One, golf, which is fine. You're a doctor, so that's what you do.
Yep.
And two, keeping the Trump cult from destroying America. That's a passion of yours. So how's it going so far?
Not very good.
No.
I think it's going better. I think it's going better with the recent environment. And we do what we can. We donate to the right groups. I'm not
I'm
out
trying to get
there.
people to vote.
Yep,
Vote,
that
vote,
that
vote.
that I'm telling everybody. I talk to everybody about that because now my job is I go to other hospitals and I just casually bring up, most of them are against Trump and they say, but they don't know if they want to vote for Biden. But I tell you have to vote for the
Yeah.
Democratic Party if you're going to beat them. You can't vote for an independent or anything. It's got to be the Democrats to vote if you don't want Trump in there because he's going to destroy America. My opinion again, but
No, so basically, so
but yeah,
like you got a new candidate and but
yep.
really your state is yeah, your state like it like I guess it's pretty close, right? Like it's
It's
almost
kind of purplish, leaning towards blue.
yeah. But
But
they should hold Virginia, but it's the other states that we're worried about.
yeah, I just don't understand how can there be that many fascist white supremacists in one state that would vote for the guy. But
Well,
you know,
it's not that simple, right? So
of course, it's not that simple. But
yeah.
yeah, and like it's the log line or the pitch line for Trump. The elevator pitch for Trump is that that's what it is. It's so destructive on so many levels. But yeah, so I mean, you do what you can. Get out there, get out the word, donate, and we avoid like being out in public because you never know when a Trump with a gun is going to come by and start shooting people. So it's gotten a little unsafe, in my opinion.
So you live in Virginia, and you're from a small town. So one's going to assume you seem affluent. One would assume that there's Trump supporters who are your neighbors.
Hmm.
You do the math, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, there's a guy right down the road that, puts the signs out and everything. I just drive by. Don't do anything, don't honk, You're entitled to your opinion. I don't talk to two of my brothers and my mother because they're Trump supporters. I can't understand how somebody that I grew up with would be in favor of anything they're trying to accomplish.
So
But yeah,
what's the empathy though? What's the reasoning? Uh, is it the propaganda, like the liberal, for some reason the word socialist and liberal kind of got skewed in America because they're not, the definition's not really proper. But that is it the propaganda against the Democrats, or is it just like what Trump is saying and what they preach? I'm just curious
yeah,
because
it's.
obviously
I think
love
it's absolutely my top issue is the tolerance. How can you tolerate somebody who wants to represent our country in the face of the world behaving that way,
yeah.
acting that way, saying things that way? It's just, you know,
No, I
I mean,
understand your side, but what's their point of view? What's their rebuttal to that?
they don't think there's anything wrong with it. They say, well, it's my vote. I can vote for whoever I want. And I say, despite this, and they always fall back on the same thing. I don't see any of that. So they're in the propaganda bubble. They
Gotcha.
don't they don't they don't see making it hard for black people to vote as racism. They see it not even as making it hard. It's very reasonable. Whatever they're doing. That's the way it's supposed to be. No, it's not. But anyways,
Yeah, yeah.
so they're pulling the typical Trump line of that we are right, you are wrong, and we will lie and cheat and steal to do whatever. They I call them. Are you familiar with Dunning Kruger?
Donnie Kruger. Now tell us what that is.
Dunning hyphen Kruger are two sociologists who won the Nobel Prize for describing what's called the Dunning Kruger effect, and that's when people are too into themselves and their own self beliefs to examine themselves if they're behaving right or wrong.
Yeah.
That's the short of it.
I think
So
we
that's what
all
a
we're all
Dunning
guilty
Kruger
of
is.
that to a certain extent, right?
Absolutely, everybody does it. Everybody lies, and all of it. But it's I just see it. What they are doing, what Trump has sped up. He didn't cause it, but he sped it up. To me, it's just like somehow half the country has lost their touch with humanity and empathy. They just don't care about anyone or anything except for their bullet points. That's it.
Yeah. Well, my theory
So
is that everybody's always had that. They just had the ability. Fox News was the culprit. They had the ability to
yep,
basically let them know that that's okay to be like that.
yep. When the president of the United States stands up and says it's okay to act on your darkest angels and I
Yeah,
encourage it,
exactly.
then they came out of the closet. They all were already there. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And
Roger Ailes basically
sure.
that's his ideology, right? The guy who founded Fox News, and he trained Trump to do that, like to basically, and then the propaganda machine became prominent, right? But
Yeah,
so
him and his father and that lawyer Cohn,
yeah,
and everything. The people that
no,
raised
no,
them,
of course but I'm
yeah,
saying it's like
everybody.
to
Yeah.
run for president. It's like
Oh
Roger
yeah,
Ailes is like he had his guy. He hated Romney. He was like obviously he was a racist. Obama was a Muslim, whatever. And he was like, okay, we're gonna pick our horse, and this is the horse.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
and then
agree.
now we are 8 years later.
I know. Still, I mean, I think it's going to take decades to recover not only what America was only a decade ago, but also in the world. The media is not talking about it, but you talk to anybody, and I've read articles written by people who've gone over there and talked to them, and no, we're not the nice heroic country that we were thought to be.
Well, I'm
And,
Canadian,
and
right? And I
in a lot of cases, oh, you're Canadian. See,
yeah, I see it
that's
already. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fun. I had a couple of nurses that went, I think, to Germany for a couple of weeks
Yeah.
during Oktoberfest, and I said, whenever you're there, if they ask if you're American, tell them you're Canadian.
Yeah.
It happened to me a lot in Australia. You American? I learned to say no, I'm Canadian.
It's so funny you mentioned that because I was talking. We did a film festival in downtown Toronto yesterday, and one of the filmmakers was from Michigan, and she says
Yep.
that her and her wife went to France just like 2 months ago, and they did the same thing. They're like, no, we're not American, we're Canadian, and then everybody liked them in France, but they were like, but they could see the face. Are you American? And it's like they had their guard up, right? And it's like, and
Yep.
then as soon as they said the Canadian, everybody was like, "Oh, you're Canadian," and they're like, "Yeah." I just was told that story last night. It's so funny. Yeah,
Oh, that is too funny. But yeah, I do it too. I hate to say it, but that's, I did it.
yeah,
It's easier than avoiding the really. What do you think about this happening in there? And I don't agree with it. The gun crime and everything, all crime going down, which is all good. Gun problem, that's an issue, which everyone wants to talk about, which you don't want. But, you know, the GOP, they shoot down everything anybody brings up, bipartisan or not, to bring that under control.
yeah.
So,
Listen, there's an ideology, there's a map for her to win. It's just that they gotta get their message across. They gotta say that, listen, we had the immigration border bill passed, bipartisan. Trump, you guys turn it down. So if you're gonna talk, you're gonna use that as a bullet point for the election.
yep,
We had it. We had it figured out, but you guys shut it down. Women, all right. So basically, you're telling women don't have the right to choose. There's another bullet point. Those two
yep,
issues right there, like basically, like win the election, in my opinion. So
yep. That alone, I think too, it
it's
takes
just
a
you got to
little
get
bit
the
of,
message across. The message has
yep.
to come across.
I think it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah,
I think the Democrats are holding back the aggressive campaign going back against Trump and everything he's saying because Biden's so old. You don't want them. They don't want it coming back on Biden that they didn't think probably could handle
yeah,
the heaviest Trump crap that he can deal out. But now as her, I think the gloves are going to come off,
yeah.
but in a controlled, calm, not insulting way. They're not going to. He's not going to be calling Donald Trump, Orangina or anything.
No, no.
So I
Let
think
him
it's
let him do the insults because it's like he's
yep.
gonna he doesn't know how to handle her, right? Like she checks a lot of boxes that he doesn't know how to handle, right? So
Oh yeah, I like it too. They've already started talking about how, and the moment Biden retired, the morning of, I told my wife, now you watch, Trump's going to start backing out of any debates. He cannot stand the idea of having to debate a woman,
yeah.
but he's afraid of her. He's afraid of women in general, anyways. I think
Well, of course
his
he is,
masochism comes from somewhere.
but he's afraid of attractive women too, and she
Yep.
happens to be attractive, and he doesn't know he doesn't know
Mm-mm.
that. So
Mm-mm. No, so I think I'm more optimistic Monday morning than I was Friday evening.
yeah, gotcha. No, I
So,
understand, but it's just the momentum's got to ride. All
yep.
right, man. Well, it seems like you got some stories to tell. Like your veterinarian prowess is absolutely extraordinary, and I think you could tell a
Thanks.
story of to write a screenplay about that. I'm
I
sure there's a
did
story
one,
there too.
but I'll work on it. But my strength is the female-led action sci-fi,
Okay. All right.
which is I've got four of those right now, of which Gemini World is my favorite. So I've honed that as tight as I can get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my wife says, "Why don't you write a horror, cheap
Yeah.
horror film?" Because she knows that they're inexpensive to make. I could, but then again, I just read an article from um, the industry or something like that that said don't mix genres. Write what you like writing the most.
Yeah.
Then once you're there, start writing other stuff. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
Yeah, there's everybody's got all kinds of ideas. Just your whatever your instinct tells you to write. It's a very good, strong screenplay. That's why we're talking right now. And I
Oh,
wish you the
thank you.
ultimate best of success with it. And thank you for all the work you've done with the veterinarian and helping
Oh,
animals out. It's kind of amazing. So and yeah,
that's
it's
my
like it's
pleasure.
crazy that's $5,000 and I'm for surgery. Not that you don't deserve it. It's just
Mhm.
that it's good that you help like people who probably don't have that money to spend on their dog, right? So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's good. I love it. It's my They're gonna have to push me from the surgery suite into my grave.
that's amazing.
So that's
All
where
right,
I'll always be.
let's talk again soon then, and like good luck on the screenplay and good luck on everything else.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Bye now.